Ever wondered why time seems to fly when you're having fun but drags when you're bored? This question isn't just a casual curiosity but an entry into the fascinating world of time distortion. A world that's much closer to our everyday reality than we might think. We all experience this phenomenon in our lives. Time, as it turns out, isn't as rigid and consistent as the ticking clock might suggest. It's fluid, bending and stretching, in response to our emotions, actions, and even our thoughts. Imagine sitting in a meeting that's dragging on and on. You glance at your watch, expecting hours to have passed, only to find it's been mere minutes. Contrast this with a day out at the amusement park with friends. Hours seem to slip by in the blink of an eye. These are classic examples of time distortion at play, where our perception of time expands or contracts based on our experience. Think back to your childhood. Remember how summer vacations seemed to stretch on forever, and a year felt like an eternity? As we grow older, years start to feel shorter. This is another form of time distortion where our perception of time changes as we age. But it's not just about the subjective feeling of time passing. Time distortion can have real-world implications. Athletes, for instance, often report experiencing time distortion during high-stakes games, where seconds can feel like minutes, allowing them to make quick decisions and precise movements. And let's not forget about those moments of danger, where time seems to slow down, enabling us to react quickly. This is yet another manifestation of time distortion, where our brain's survival mechanism kicks in to seemingly stretch time. Intriguing, isn't it? How time can be both our friend and foe depending on the circumstance. As we delve deeper into the enigma of time, we'll explore how this strange phenomenon shapes our lives, and how we might even be able to harness it to our advantage. But for now, let's marvel at the mystery that is time. So, what exactly is time distortion? That's a great question, and it's a term you might have heard tossed around in the latest sci-fi blockbuster. But here's the thing. Time distortion isn't just a fancy term for Hollywood. It's a real concept, and it's all about our perception of time. Imagine for a moment that you're sitting in a boring meeting. The clock on the wall seems to be moving at a snail's pace. You feel like you've been there for hours, even though it's only been a few minutes. That's a basic form of time distortion. Your subjective experience of time doesn't match up with the objective passage of time. Now let's flip the scenario. You're at a party, having the time of your life. Suddenly you glance at your watch and realize it's way past midnight. Where did the time go? You wonder. Again, that's time distortion. In this case, time flew by because you were having fun. But what causes these distortions in our perception of time? Well, it's a combination of different factors, all playing their part. Things like age, attention, emotions, and even the temperature can all influence how we perceive time. For example, time tends to feel longer when we're scared or anxious, and shorter when we're relaxed or enjoying ourselves. It's a fascinating interplay of our brain and our environment, creating these little blips in our time perception. So, in essence, time distortion is this. It's when our perception of time doesn't quite line up with the objective reality. It's when the clock on the wall and the clock in our heads tell two different stories. It's a fascinating phenomenon, one that touches every aspect of our lives, from the mundane to the extraordinary. Thus, time distortion is when our perception of time doesn't match the objective reality. Now, how does our brain play a role in time perception? This question leads us to delve deeper into the mysteries of the human mind and its perception of time. Our brain, this 3-pound mass of jelly-like substance, is the control center of our perception, including that of time. It's a complex network of billions of neurons interweaving and connecting, forming a vast web of pathways that transmit information at lightning speed. Now, to understand time perception, we need to look at two key areas of the brain. The first is the prefrontal cortex, the area right behind your forehead. This is the executive suite of the brain, handling complex cognitive behavior, decision-making, and moderating social behavior. It's also where we perceive the passage of time, whether it's a fleeting second or an agonizing minute. The second area is the basal ganglia, located deep within the brain. This region is involved in a variety of functions, including motor learning, executive functions, and emotions. And importantly for our discussion, the basal ganglia play a significant role in timing and time perception. So how do these two areas work together to create our perception of time? Imagine you're waiting for a pot of water to boil. Your prefrontal cortex, the executive suite, is aware of the task and its expected duration. Meanwhile, your basal ganglia, the timekeeper, keeps track of how long you've been waiting. As the seconds tick by, these two regions communicate. The basal ganglia keep a steady rhythm, like a metronome, sending signals to the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex, in turn, integrates this information with your expectations, your emotions, and your focus on the task. This intricate dance between the prefrontal cortex and the basal ganglia happens every moment of every day, shaping our perception of time. Moments of joy may seem to pass in a flash, while periods of boredom can feel like they're stretching on forever. It's also worth noting that our brain's clock isn't always accurate. It can be easily influenced by a multitude of factors, from the amount of attention we pay to a task, to our emotional state, and even our body temperature. Moreover, our brain's perception of time isn't a fixed quantity. It's subjective, flexible, and can be distorted. This is why an hour-long lecture can feel like an eternity, while an hour of laughter with friends seems to pass in the blink of an eye. So, what's the takeaway? Well, it's clear that our perception of time is not merely a simple ticking of seconds, minutes, and hours. It's a complex process, deeply rooted in the intricate workings of our brain. It's a dance between different regions of our brain, a dance influenced by a multitude of factors, a dance that shapes our experience of the world around us. So it's our brain's intricate processing that gives rise to our unique perception of time. What factors can cause time distortion? Let's dive in. First off, stress is a significant player in the game of time distortion. When you're feeling stressed or anxious, time can seem to crawl at a snail's pace. It's like when you're waiting for the results of an important test, or when you're stuck in traffic late for an important meeting. Every second seems to stretch on forever. This happens because stress causes our brains to switch into a hyper-alert state where we're more aware of each passing moment, making time appear to slow down. On the flip side, when you're relaxed and at ease, time can seem to fly by. Ever noticed how a lazy Sunday afternoon spent reading a good book or watching your favorite movie can seem to disappear in the blink of an eye? That's time distortion at work. Next up, let's talk about age. As we grow older, our perception of time seems to speed up. Remember when you were a kid and the 6-week summer break felt like an eternity? Now as an adult, those 6 weeks might feel like they're over in a flash. This is because as we age, we accumulate more memories and experiences, which can make time seem to pass more quickly. Similarly, our attention plays a crucial role in our perception of time. When we're engrossed in an activity or deeply focused on something, we're less aware of the passage of time. This is known as flow state, a state of intense concentration where time seems to disappear. Think about the last time you were so immersed in a task that you lost track of time. That's flow state, and it's a clear example of time distortion. Additionally, our physical state can influence our perception of time. For instance, when we're physically tired or sick, time can seem to drag on. This is because our bodies are working harder to recover, which can make us more aware of the passage of time. Our emotions can also affect our perception of time. When we're happy or excited, time can seem to fly by. Conversely, when we're bored or unhappy, time can seem to crawl. This is because our emotions can heighten or reduce our awareness of the passage of time. Even our environment can impact our perception of time. For instance, spending time in nature away from the hustle and bustle of city life can make time seem slower. This is because nature's slower pace can help us to slow down and become more aware of the passage of time. And last but not least, certain substances can alter our perception of time. For example, caffeine can make time seem to speed up, while substances like alcohol or marijuana can make time seem to slow down. This is because these substances can affect the way our brains process information, which can change our perception of time. So, as you can see, time distortion isn't just a sci-fi concept. It's a very real phenomenon that's influenced by a variety of factors, from our emotions and physical state to our age and environment. And while we may not have a time machine to travel through time, understanding these factors can help us to better manage our time and make the most of each moment. Remember, your perception of time can vary based on a multitude of factors. How does time distortion feature in science and art? That's a question that invites us down a fascinating rabbit hole, where the boundaries of reality and imagination blur. From the pages of science fiction novels to the surreal landscapes of Salvador Dali's paintings, time distortion has been a recurring motif, shaping our cultural narratives and influencing scientific theories. Let's start with science fiction, a genre that has always had a love affair with time. Authors like H.G. Wells, Philip K. Dick, and Stephen King have explored the idea of time distortion in their works, presenting scenarios where time bends, stretches, and even breaks. These stories often challenge our understanding of time, offering a glimpse into worlds where the linearity of time is discarded and the past, present, and future coexist in a non-sequential order. Take The Time Machine by H.G. Wells, for instance. It tells the story of a time traveler who can move forward and backward in time, witnessing the evolution and eventual downfall of humanity. Or consider Philip K. Dick's The Man in the High Castle, where an alternate history unfolds, suggesting a world where the outcome of World War II was different. These narratives don't just entertain us, they push us to think about time in new and exciting ways. Moving on to the realm of art, artists have been using their canvases to depict time distortion for centuries. Salvador Dali's The Persistence of Memory is a classic example. The melting clocks in the painting symbolize the fluidity and subjectivity of time. Artists like Dali use visuals to express the idea that time isn't a rigid, unchanging entity, but something that can be manipulated and distorted. Another notable example is the Cubist movement, led by artists like Pablo Picasso and Georges Braque. Cubist paintings often depict multiple perspectives of an object simultaneously, representing different points in time. This approach to painting reflects the idea that time isn't a one-way street, but a multidimensional space where past, present, and future intersect. The influence of time distortion isn't limited to science fiction and art, it has also seeped into scientific theories. Albert Einstein's theory of relativity, for example, is built on the idea that time and space are intertwined and that time can slow down or speed up depending on the speed of an object or the strength of gravity. This theory, which has been confirmed by numerous experiments, was once a concept straight out of a science fiction novel. So as we can see, time distortion isn't just a scientific concept, it's a cultural phenomenon that has shaped our narratives, our art, and our understanding of the universe. It's a testament to human imagination and our quest to unravel the mysteries of time. Time distortion isn't just a scientific concept, but a cultural phenomenon as well. How does time distortion affect our everyday life? This question might seem abstract on the surface, but it actually has a multitude of practical implications that influence our daily routines, productivity, mood, and overall lifestyle. Let's start with productivity. Ever noticed how some days just seem to stretch out forever, whereas others fly by in the blink of an eye? This is time distortion in action. When you're engrossed in an activity you enjoy or that demands your full attention, time seems to pass faster. This phenomenon, known as time flying when you're having fun, can actually make you more productive. You're so focused on the task at hand that you don't notice the hours slipping by. You're in the zone, so to speak. Conversely, when you're bored or anticipating something unpleasant, time can seem to crawl. Waiting for the end of a workday or the arrival of a weekend can feel like an eternity, and this perceived time dilation can make us feel sluggish and unproductive. Next, let's talk about mood. Our perception of time can significantly affect our emotional state. When we're happy or excited, time seems to speed up, making joyful moments fleeting. On the other hand, during periods of sadness or stress, time can feel like it's standing still. This perceived time distortion can exacerbate feelings of melancholy or anxiety, creating a feedback loop that can be challenging to break. Time distortion also plays a role in our lifestyle choices. For instance, people who live life at a fast pace often feel that time is slipping away from them, leading to a constant race against the clock. This can lead to a lifestyle that prioritizes efficiency and productivity, often at the expense of leisure and relaxation. On the other hand, those who perceive time as abundant may lead a more laid-back lifestyle, taking time to enjoy the simple pleasures of life. However, this can also lead to procrastination and a lack of urgency, which can affect productivity and goal achievement. Moreover, time distortion can influence our health and well-being. A distorted perception of time can disrupt our sleep patterns, eating habits, and exercise routines. For instance, if we perceive time as scarce, we might skip meals or sleep to save time, leading to potential health issues. In the grand scheme of things, time distortion is a fascinating quirk of our cognition that significantly influences our daily lives. While it can sometimes work to our advantage, it can also lead to challenges that we need to consciously manage. By understanding how time distortion works, we can better navigate its effects and make the most of the time we have. Time distortion can have a substantial impact on how we live our lives. But remember, time is a human construct, and how we perceive it can be as flexible and adaptable as we choose it to be. So next time you feel time slipping away or stretching out, take a moment to remember that you are the master of your time, not the other way around. Can we overcome time distortion? Now that's the question of the hour, isn't it? Let's delve right in. Overcoming time distortion isn't about acquiring some superhuman power or inventing a time machine. It's about understanding how our brains perceive the passage of time and learning how to manage it effectively. In essence, time distortion is all about perception. It's the difference between how time really passes and how we perceive it. You know those moments when time seems to fly while you're having fun but drags when you're stuck in a dull meeting? That's time distortion in action. So, how can we get a grip on this slippery concept? Mindfulness is the key. Mindfulness, at its core, is about being present in the moment, fully engaged in whatever is happening right now. When we're mindful, we're not lost in thoughts about the past or the future. We're here, in the now, fully experiencing each moment. This can help us to perceive time more accurately. Let's break it down with an example. Imagine you're enjoying a delicious meal. You could wolf it down, barely tasting it, and before you know it, it's gone. That's time distortion. But if you slow down, savor each bite, relish the flavors, you'll find that the meal lasts longer. That's mindfulness in action, helping you overcome time distortion. In addition to mindfulness, effective time management strategies can also play a crucial role in overcoming time distortion. This involves planning and organizing your time wisely. It means breaking down tasks into manageable chunks, setting realistic deadlines, and prioritizing tasks based on their importance and urgency. Let's say you have a big project due in 2 weeks. If you procrastinate and leave it until the last minute, those final few days will rush by in a blur of stress and panic. That's time distortion. But if you break the project down into smaller tasks, spread them out over the 2 weeks and tackle them one at a time, you'll perceive time as moving at a more manageable pace. That's effective time management, helping you overcome time distortion. So, can we overcome time distortion? Absolutely. But it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It requires practice, patience, and a keen awareness of how we perceive time. It's about learning to live in the moment with mindfulness and managing our time effectively. Remember, the power to control your perception of time lies within your grasp. It's not about changing time itself, but about changing how we experience it. So let's embrace the journey and take control of our time. After all, it's the one resource we can't get back once it's gone. The power to control your perception of time lies within your grasp. So, what did we learn about time distortion today? We embarked on a journey, unraveling the enigma of time, unearthing the truth about its elusive and subjective nature. We learned that time distortion, in essence, is a discrepancy between objective, clock-measured time and our subjective perception of it. We discovered that our brain plays a pivotal role in how we perceive time. It's not just a mere spectator, but an active participant, shaping and molding our perception of reality. Time doesn't just pass, it's processed, interpreted, and experienced differently by each one of us. We delved into understanding the factors that influence time distortion. We found out that our emotional state, level of attention, and physical conditions could all alter our perception of time. A moment of fear might seem like an eternity, while hours spent in joy could pass in the blink of an eye. We explored how time distortion permeates into the realms of science and art, affecting the narrative in literature, the perception in visual arts, and the understanding in physics. It's not just a psychological phenomenon, but a cultural and scientific one as well. Then we brought it closer to home, observing how time distortion manifests in our everyday life. We realized that it's not an external force, but a part of our internal world, coloring our experiences and shaping our memories. Finally, we discussed ways to manage time distortion. We learned that mindfulness, time management techniques, and a balanced lifestyle could help us align our perception of time with reality. We discovered that understanding and acknowledging our perception of time could empower us to live more fulfilling lives. And with that, we unlocked the secrets of time distortion, a fascinating yet complex aspect of our lives.